You all are in luck because my father taught me very, very early on about the 5 B's of public speaking, which if you don't know them are be brief, brother, be brief. So in that vein, I'm going to be as brief as possible, but I did want to take the opportunity, one, to thank you all for inviting us, inviting all of us in this space, but certainly on behalf of the Young Elected Officials Network, I want to thank you. And just a little bit about the Young Elected Officials Network. First, if I could have all of my YEOs just quickly wave your hand. We've got some really dynamic leaders from around the country who are serving their communities in this country in very special and unique ways. It is ironic and in many ways fitting that we are in this room on Capitol Hill this evening. Because a report came out earlier this week, last week I should say, that basically said that this is the oldest sitting Congress we have ever had in our nation's history, age-wise. If you looked at the average age of members of Congress, this is the oldest sitting Congress we've ever had. Whereas young elected officials who are aged 35 and under represent 4.8% of all elected officials in this country, just 4.8%. Whereas we, the age demographic 35 and under, are around 30% of the voting demographic. So that should give you a picture of the disparity that we see when we talk about elected officials aged 35 and under, and then those who are actually serving in power and positions of influence, just 4.8% of those. The network that I founded and now have the pleasure of serving as executive director of is a network that brings together elected officials, over 520 around this country, who are city council members, mayors, school board members, state legislators, state representatives, state senators, statewide office holders, and national elected officials. We're an organization that's 4 years old who seeks to, 1, identify and network elected officials around the country, 2, support them with leadership and personal development training opportunities to help them along in their service to their communities. And last, and I think most importantly, exposing them to progressive policy around the country, to the think tanks, to the people who have been thinking and writing about the challenges that face our community, but haven't had the connectivity to elected officials and policymakers who can actually bring it to fruition, to put it to action. So that's why the innovation generation is so apropos to this group. It is what we live, it is what we do. How many of us have Facebook accounts? How many of us have MySpace? How many of us tweet? Sounds kind of nasty, but that's the official word, Twitter. If you it's twittering and then do tweet. So that with an email account. I mean, that's got an email account. But these are technologies that are first nature to this generation. And I would even say, go further to say that innovation, it has a lot less to do with our age. An innovation generation has a lot less to do with our age and more to do with our frame of mind. I would argue that many of us in this room are innovators regardless of our age. Understand that we are in a different digital age and we have to do the best we can, I think, as policymakers to make technology and new ways of technology accessible for as many people in our community as possible. When Mr. Irving was up earlier talking about the new generations of technology that are out and challenging us not to be consumers only, but also to be innovators, I was like, I can't invent none of that stuff. But I can't wait to be users of it. And the unique thing about us, particularly those of us in this room that are policymakers, we don't have to necessarily invent those technologies, but we do, as policymakers, have to think about how we can make that technology first available to our community and to not create barriers for entry for incumbent industry as they are creating these technologies. And 2, once that technology makes it to the market, make sure that we are doing what we can to make that technology available to all people and not just some people. Broadband technology should not be a luxury in this country, not in this country. Broadband technology ought to be just a way of life for folks. And unfortunately, in too many places around this country, it is not part of the way of life. One example I'll give, and I'll take my seat as we give examples of how we can be innovators in our own communities as policymakers. 2 years ago, I worked with a school in my community that is known as NIMS Middle School. NIMS Middle School is a school 2 years ago that was ranked in F grade in the state of Florida. We rank our schools in the state of Florida, and it was the only publicly public school in my community that was ranked in F grade. The population of NIMS Middle School 2 years ago was 50% of what it was just 10 years ago. 98% of the students at that school are on free or reduced lunch. Flight from teachers, flight from the community, the school was challenged in every single sense of the word. And I wanted to figure out what we could do as a community to help close that achievement gap in our community through the use of technology. And by working with a couple of community people and with my commission, thank you to my mayor who is here. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Mayor John Marks, who is the mayor of the city of Tallahassee. But with community leaders, we came together to think about innovative ways we can make technology part of the solution for those kids. Of the kids at NIMS Middle School, just 10% of them had the hardware in their homes of technology. What we decided to do with that F-ranked public school is provided every single incoming sixth grader a brand new 3-year warranty desktop computer. We then had our incumbent cable provider in our community, Comcast Cable, extend internet access into the homes of every single one of those incoming sixth graders and agreed to do that every year going forward for the next 3 years of our pilot program. The kids came into NIMS Middle School. Well, before I say that, we got the school board to purchase a software called Pearson Success Maker, which allowed the kid to do reading comprehension, math, science. They could log on at home. The teacher could see when the kid logged on, how long they were on, which questions they got right, which ones they got wrong, and adjust the in-classroom curriculum to meet the learning level of those children. When the sixth graders came into NIMS Middle School 2 years ago as an F-ranked school, they were reading at a 4.2 grade level. 4.2, which means fourth grade, second month of your fourth grade year. By the end of that year, when those kids tested out using Pearson Success Maker and Achieve 3000, they were reading at a 6.7 grade point level, which means sixth grade, seventh month. Now, although they were graduating going into the seventh grade, that's 2.5 years of gains that we experienced because we helped to connect these children to the software tools that are out there and that should have been made available to them because they were made available to kids in more well-to-do areas of our community in the sixth grade who were emailing their teachers, asking their teachers questions, parents getting on and being communicative with the administration and the infrastructure at the school. So we have a ways to go. This is at the base level of things that we can do as policymakers in our community. I think our largest challenge and I think our biggest opportunity as elected officials, for those of us who fit into that role, is that we have the power to convene people. We have the power to convene people around ideas and inspire investments in those ideas. We don't have to have all the solutions, but we can be leaders in our community, innovators in our community, lay those issues out there, and hopefully attract people to a common place where they say we can do better as a community. And so on behalf of the Young Elected Officials Network, I just want you to know that our elected officials, our cadre of 520 elected officials around the country, which may seem small, but we're more than 50% of the 4.8 young elected officials that are out there, are doing our part to address the issues that are facing communities all around this country. And I want to give my hat off to City Treasurer Carlucci, Mayor Heather Hudson of Greenville, Mississippi, as well as to my dear Mayor, in the name I can't believe is escaping me. Mayor, help me out. Mayor Michael Sessions, I got the first name. Mayor Michael Sessions, who is also with us. Again, thank you for your time, and again, thank you for this evening.